Hello, everyone. In this video, we are going to go over Apex, which is Oracle's low-code application development platform. And we will see how you can use Apex to build fairly capable, secure, responsive, scalable web applications without writing a whole lot of code. Okay. So let's get started. As I said, Apex is, of course, Oracle's platform that lets you build applications really fast with, well, they say 20x faster with 100x less code. Let's see how you can actually do that. Kind of, of course, this is marketing for you, but we're going to use Apex to build some application. Let's see if we can get a decent application created in about a 30-minute video. All right. So what we're going to do is let's go over a little bit of background, what we're talking about here. Normally, when you want to create a database-driven web application, you would need multiple tiers, and you have to set up a application server, which is basically your database server, probably. And then you have to create a web server that you need to set up to do the communication, install drivers, that sort of things. And then you create a web application on that server that clients would be able to connect to and authenticate to communicate with your application. So that's the typical way of doing this. With Oracle Apex, Apex is kind of built into the Oracle platform. I believe starting from, don't take my word for it, but I think Oracle 18 or something around there is when Apex started getting bundled with Oracle. So it's actually included with Oracle. An administrator just needs to enable it, and then you can use it to build applications. And we will see how to build applications with that today. Your alternatives that require coding, some of it you may be familiar with, or you can write Java code using JDBC for database communication. If you're more of a Python programmer, you can create a Python with Flask or other type of platforms for building web applications. You can use Microsoft .NET platform with C# or whatever other language you like with ADO.NET for the communication. You could use PHP, and it's got its own or other applications like Laravel is a very popular one that lets you build database-driven applications pretty well. So those are your normal ways of doing it. Today we are going to see how you can build applications with hardly any code at all. Now, when I say no code, at least in today's video, we are going to be writing some SQL. Of course, if you're working with a database, you should be familiar with SQL already. So that is the only coding that would be required for building applications with Apex. So why low code? Of course, lets you create applications really quickly. So less development time, which means less cost to get applications spin up very quickly. You can have consistent looking applications because they're all using pre-built templates. You can update and change templates easily as well. But what is important to know that it is still backed by a secure database, so it is still retains all of that power of Oracle with a fairly simple development platform. So Apex lets you create native low-code applications with Oracle, and the applications turn out to be pretty nice. They're responsive, they're modern, they are scalable. So obviously you have enterprise scale database in the backend. Very little development effort, as you would see in a little bit. And it is actually included with Oracle Database at no additional cost. So even whether you are on-prem or cloud, if you are using one of the recent generations of Oracle, Apex is already available. Already supports multiple languages, and there are all kinds of applications, including the Oracle Store, which is developed entirely using Apex. So today, what we're going to do is we're going to build an application using an existing database. So we're going to expect that you already have a database created and you are building an application on top of that database. Let's see how much we can do in about 30 minutes of video. All right, so let me switch over to my Apex account. And as you can see, here is my Apex account. You can create one for free at apex.oracle.com if you don't have one. But assuming you already have one, you're familiar with this interface, you can go to SQL Workshop and you'll see all the tables here. So today we're going to be building a little job search portal. So I've got a company table, companies list jobs, and the jobs, you have applicants who are applying for these jobs, and you have jobs that require some skills and applicants that possess those skills. So that's essentially what that database is doing. What we're going to do today is we're going to create an application based on that data set. All right, so let's get started. We're going to just go ahead and create new app, and we're not going to use a starter app. So these are some of the galleries and existing apps that you can use. If you have an XML file or an Excel spreadsheet and you want to create a database out of that, you can easily do that. But of course, we're actually going to use a database that you already have created. So I'm going to create a new application. Let's call it Job Portal. And since this is a job portal, let's see if we can find a nice little icon. I'd say a rocket ship icon sounds good. You can pick colors, yeah, you can whatever you choose, you can create your own, upload your own icon, etc. I'm gonna save this. And there's all kinds of different app appearances that you can pick. I'm gonna stick with the defaults today since we want to build something really quickly. Now, and you can add many features directly at this point without doing anything. For example, install progressive web app that puts a button on the top of your web page that lets you download this as a native application on your platform, whether it's an iPhone or Android or PC or Mac. You click that button and it becomes an application on your device. So that's a cool feature. You can add an about page that you can put stuff about your application. You can create access control. You can do reporting on your activities, configuration, all kinds of stuff. I'm not going to go into all of these things. Just keep the defaults. Let's add a couple of pages. Now, you can create some pages right here while you're creating an application, or you can create the application and add new pages as you go in. I'm going to show you both possibilities. So let's click on Add Page. Let's say I want to create a simple little interactive grid. Okay, so we're going to click on Interactive Grid, and let's call it Skills. Okay. And we will pick the Skills table. It's a super simple table. And we will not set it as a home page. We'll just say allow editing. And let's say we can pick an icon. What is a good icon for skills? I wonder if there's a badge icon here. Oh yeah, there's a badge icon. Let's pick that one. All right, so we're gonna add that page. Let's see, what else can we do? We can click on add page here. There's a bunch of different things that you can add. Let's create a master detail. That's nice. That's a nice one. So obviously we saw companies that have jobs, so we can let's call this jobs. Okay, so this is gonna be, you can pick side by side or stacked. I like the stacked form. We're gonna say on the top we're gonna have companies, and in the details we're gonna have jobs, and we can say add page. Okay, that job got added, and you can add a few more, but the facilities that you could do, the options that you can pick at this point before even you have created the application is kind of limited. So we're not going to add any more here. We're going to learn how to add additional pages after the application has been created. So we'll just go ahead and create the application. This takes a minute or so. Okay, there is our application right there with our home page, the skills page, the companies and job page, and notice that it created the login page and the about page and the help page already, right? So let's just run this application, see what it looks like. So we're going to run this application, and notice that it's got a nice little job portal, and then you can use username and password to log in. So this is the same username and password as your Apex username and password, and you can create additional users for your application. So I'm going to click on sign in. And there's my application. There's the skills um, page and there's the companies and jobs page. And it's got the nice little drop down menu and same options. Those are the only two pages that we created. Notice that I can sign out and then go back to the login screen. There is our help page and about page and so forth, right? So it is completely responsive. So you can go into a mobile screen and this is what it would look like. And you can have kind of the same types of things that you're used to. So let's take a look at what are the two pages that it created. So let's take a look at skills first. So it basically tells you all of the skills. Now, in this application, particularly with this data set, there are a few issues that we're going to run into, and I'm going to show you how to fix some of the issues. So if I try to add a new skill, let's say I want to add C++ as a skill. Now, if I try to save this, I get an error message saying that, oh, you can't insert null into the skill ID column, right? Because skill ID is not being stored. And normally, Apex expects that your database will have the ID column, the primary key columns that have some sort of an auto-generate feature. So that way, whenever you add a new row, the primary key gets automatically created. And that's probably the better way of doing that anyway. This database did not have the auto ID feature that you had to create new IDs. So we're just going to go ahead and fix that in here. So what we will do is notice that there is this toolbar that comes at the bottom. Now this toolbar is not going to appear when an end user runs this application. This is just appearing because I've got my app builder right there. So if I'm doing quick application development, this lets me go back and forth real quick between the application and its source code. So I can go back to the application homepage or I can go directly to this page's source code. So I'm going to go click on that. Now I'm calling it source code because I'm too used to programming, but this is, as you can see, this is a no code platform. So there is no code that you're seeing here. So it's just kind of a semi-WYSIWYG view of what this page has. So it's got a breadcrumb bar on top and it's got a skills body, which if I click on the skills, it's showing up as an interactive grid, which is what we created. And it's got the columns here. And you notice that skill name is the only one that's being visible. Skill ID has been hidden, right? You see that icon, and also on this side, you see that this is saying hidden. We're going to turn that into a text field, so it's no longer hidden, so end user can add the skill ID. Now, as I said, in another application, you may have the automatic entry of the generation of the primary key, in which case you do not need to enable primary key editing. So now what we could do is we saved it and we can run it and it'll come straight back to that page loaded. So now remember we had trouble with adding the C++ skill. So now this time we're going to add a row. We will say S12 and we'll call this C++. And we save. No problems this time. The skill got saved. All right, so let's take a look at the companies and jobs. This was the master detail that we created. So notice that it created a top to bottom master detail. So if you create, you click on one of the companies, it gives you the jobs that are offered by that company. And you click on Microsoft, it shows you Microsoft jobs, Intel has Intel's jobs, and so forth. Right? So let's see how we can modify this one. So what we will do is, again, we're going to click on page 3 here. And now we're going to jump straight into this companies and jobs pages source. Let's just say source, no source code, because there is no code. There is some code that we're going to do. So now let's see, companies have jobs and jobs require some skills, right? So let's go ahead and add another interactive grid that shows the skills required for each job. So let's see how we could do that. Now, if you look at the WYSIWYG type of thing, here is the company region, and underneath the job region appears, and we want to make the skill region appear next to it. So what we will do is we're going to create a region, create a new region here, and we're going to call it skills. And this is not going to be a static content anymore. We're going to turn this into an interactive grid. The moment we do that, an error message appears and it says that, hey, you need to provide a table name. Yeah, of course, a grid requires a table or some sort of a source where the data is coming. So I can click on that error and it's going to take me directly to where that error is. And you see there's that error message right there. So what we could do is we can pick the table. And let's say for this, we want the job skills table because jobs would require skills. So I'm going to pick the job skills table. And there it is. It puts the job skills tables in here. And let's see what this would look like right now. So I'm going to click on run and it refreshes this table. It looks kind of the same, but if you scroll down, here's all the job skills, but it looks weird, right? It only shows the expertise needed, doesn't actually show you which skill it's talking about, and it's underneath the job, so you can't tell which one it's for. So we'll fix all of that. So let's go back to the page. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make the job and its skills appear side by side. That's actually super easy. You go to skills, and if you look at the right side, there it says start new row. We're not going to start new row. We just turn that off. Now notice that job and skills go side by side. As simple as that, right? The second thing we're going to do is we are not going to show every skill. We're only going to show the skill that's required by the job. And just like we were showing the jobs required by the companies. And here is how you do that. You create a master detail relationship between job and its skills. So we can see that already in here. So if you look at job, you will notice that job, if you scroll down, it says here, it's a master detail relationship with the company's region. We're going to do the same thing for the skills as well. Not only that, if we go under job, we will go to the comp ID table, which is hidden. But if we look at the comp ID table, we will see that the master column comes from the comp ID in that master region. So we're going to do the same thing for our skills. So if we click on skills, we scroll down, find master detail. Right now, master detail is nothing. That's why all the skills were showing. And so we are going to select jobs here because the skills are related to jobs. And then how are they related? We'll go into the columns. We'll click on job ID. Again, scroll down to master detail. Notice that this is empty right now. We're going to pick job ID here that is selected from that thing. Now, if let's just enable, it says skill ID is hidden. We're going to show skill ID, let's say display only. Okay, so let's run this and see what this looks like now. So now what we see is that we're seeing the companies have all these jobs, and when we click on the job, it shows the skills. But we're seeing the skill ID. That's not very useful, right? I mean, what is S2? We don't know until we look at the skill table. Well, we can do that right away. So what we'll do again, click on page 3, go straight to the source, and skill ID, we were showing it just as a display only. We don't want to show the skill ID. We want to show like a drop-down list or something like that. So what we will do is we'll create a select list. And this is where we have to write a little bit of code. You see, it's got an error message here. It says I need to give it a list of values. And we will say that this is a code. Essentially, what we want is the list of skills with the names. And when you're dropping down, when you're creating a drop down, you need to provide two things. You need to provide what is displayed to the users, which is basically the name of the skill. But what goes into the database is the skill ID, right? So we need to show what is shown on the display. So what's the display and what is going to the row. So basically what we do is we say select, we'll say skill name as D, which is the short form for the data, and skill ID as R, which is the row that goes in from our skills table. And I can click on this little icon here
that takes you to an SQL editor. Nice thing about that is I can use the autocomplete and all of those features, and we can click on this check that validates the SQL. Very important, otherwise you're going to get a crash in your application. So that SQL is valid. So let's run this page now and see what that looks like now. All right, so now notice that if I click on project management, it shows the actual names of the skills instead of S1, S2, S3, and so forth. And that looks a lot nicer. Okay, so that's how you build and create application. We already have a nice little application that lets me insert edit skills. I could do companies and jobs and so forth. So what we could do is we could do something similar for applicants as well. Since we have already seen how to create a multi-level master detail form, I'm not going to do that there to save time. Let's do a couple of other things. Let me just see. Interactive report we already did. Interactive grid. Let's create a couple of simple data entry forms. And I think that would be interesting to know. Skills was an interactive grid. So we'll go back to the application. Now this time we're gonna create a new page, right? Now notice that I'm getting a lot more options that we didn't have when we were creating the application. So one of the options we're gonna pick is our data entry form, and we're gonna call this, let's say, job info. Okay, and the table will be the job table, and we'll say next. And it's already picking up job ID as the primary key. That is perfect. We're going to create the page. And that's how simple it is to create a form. Now, of course, we're going to have to enable job ID entering, just like the other one. We'll make that a text field. And let's say job ID as the label. And let's save it and let's run it. And there is our job entry form. See how simple it is. We can create a new job ID right here. And what is cool is it already figured out that comp ID is actually a drop-down list because it's a foreign key to the company. So I can create a new job. Let's see if I can create a new job. There, row got created. So if I look at companies and jobs under FIU, I should have my programmer job right there that I created. Beautiful. Okay, so there is how you can create a new form. Let's create one more form for submitting applications. So we will go back to the application. Let's create a new page and we will create another form. And let's say application form. And this time we're going to pick the applies table. And notice that the applies table is a associative entity, however way you call it. So it's got two composite primary key. So it already picked those up. And there it is. And what we will do is the app ID, we are going to turn that one into a select list like before. This time it did not do it automatically, so we will do it because we know how to do that. So what we will do is under select, we will say SQL query, and we will say select name as D, app ID as R from applicant. And let's validate. Make sure this is a good SQL query, and we will save, and we will run it. And there it is. There is the application form, and I can say, pick an applicant and we can insert. But we don't know which job we're applying to, so we will do that in a little bit. All right, so let's cancel this out and let's go to create our first search page. Okay, Apex has all kinds of different search pages you can create. The faceted search is actually really cool. So let's take a look at what that is all about. So we're going to go back to the application. Let's say create page. This time we're going to create as you can see, there is a standard search page. There is a faceted search page. There is a smart filter. That's also another type of search page.
faceted search is pretty fascinating, so we're going to use that one. So we'll say a job search and table view name. This time it's not going to be a table. I want to create something that lets me search by company, search by job, search by skills that it needs, right?
So what we'll do is we'll create a SQL query. Now this time, let's write an SQL query. So basically we're
Combining company, job, and skill, all of them together.
so we will write to create a query that does that. So let's write this query real quick. Okay, so this SQL query shows the job ID, the company information, the job information with its title, location, the low and high salary limit, shows the skills that it's needed and how much expertise is needed for that skill by joining the company table with the job table, with the job skills table, with the skill table. So that's our SQL query. And we click on next. And this is where what faceted search is, it gives you some clues on what you can search for, right? We don't want to search for job ID, but we can totally search for company name, company type. We can search for job title. We can search for job location. We can search for the skill sets needed. Notice that the typical searchable fields are automatically filled in for us. So we're going to create the page. And now we get a faceted search page. That simple. Now let's run it and see what it looks like. There you go. We got list of all our jobs, and I can click on consulting and I get the consulting jobs. I can click on IT, gives me the IT jobs, and so forth. Now, what we would like to do is we would like to click on the job and let us apply to that job, right? That's basically what we would like to get at. All right, so let's see how we would do that. We'll need to turn this job ID field to a link, or we can create a separate button that says apply and make that a link, however way you would like. But simplest one would be to just make this a link itself. So what we will do is edit this page and let's go to the columns, and there's my job ID. Right now it is just a plain text. Now instead of plain text, we're going to turn that into a link. Now, what we would do is when we create a link, we have to provide what would happen when that link is clicked. So we're going to click on target, and right now it says no link defined. Remember, we created a form for jobs. So what we would do is when this link is clicked, we want to go to that form. So we will say page in this application, and I think that was the form, the job info form. All right. Now, which job will be opened? The job that we clicked on, right? So what we will need to do is click on that, and we will click on job ID on that page in the target page. So this is P4, so P4 job ID, and it gives you all the things that you can set, and you need to remember which one you should set. And the value would be the job ID that is coming from this page. So when we go to that page, the job ID from this page gets set to the form page, and that job is loaded. All right, so let's click on OK. And let's click on Save and run this. Now notice that job ID has now become a link. And if we reset it, you will see every one of these is now a link. And if we click on one of these job IDs, now we should go to the job info form with the job loaded. Great. So now let's just add a little more content to this form. So let's say I want to apply to this job as an applicant. So remember we created an application form. What I would like to do is I would like to create a button here that takes me to this form with that job ID already preloaded, right? That would be a proper workflow. So we will go into edit page 4. And now what we will do is we're going to add a button. So we've got, if you look at the button positions here, there is the close button on this side, and then the delete and change buttons on these sides. So what we would do is let's put another button. Let's say create a button. And we're going to call this button apply. And let's say call this apply to this job, something like that. Right. So that's what we would want to make that button called. And when this button is clicked, the behavior of the button would be it would take me to the form with the value loaded. So what we would do is we will say action is not submit page. We'll redirect to another page in this application. And we'll have to provide a target just like before. We click on target, and this would be our application form, that one. And just like before, we're going to set the job ID of that page with the job ID from this page. Perfect. So what we will say is okay, and then we will say save. And now let's check this out. So we'll go back to the search page again, just for the heck of it. So here's the workflow. Applicant comes in, searches for a job, likes a job that they want to apply to. They click on that job, they see the job, and they see that, okay, this job sounds good. So I'm going to apply to this job. So I'm going to click on this button that takes me to the application form for the job. And I'm going to say that, okay, Jim, I'm applying today. Of course, decision date and outcome are not selected. Now, of course, these would likely be hidden for somebody who's logged in as an applicant, and all of that. I'll show you in a bit how to do it. And then, yeah, we did not do a create action here, so this is going to fail. So let's try to apply changes and see that it gives you an error message, but I know exactly why that error message is. So we'll go back to that page. This is kind of an insert page, right? So what we will need to do is when we click on this save button, in the action, notice that it says database action is update. We do not want update. We want to create a new insert. So we will say insert. All right, so let's save that again. And let's go back here. Let's start again from the beginning. Yeah, we'll leave. Okay, so we will go back to my job search. We found a job that we like. We click on it. We look at the job. Actually, this button doesn't look all that great. It's actually pretty easy to change this. So actually, so let's click on that, and we'll turn that button blue. And basically, all it is just one click. Where is that apply button there? And we'll turn it hot. That's basically what their standard for blue is. All right, so let's run it again. Go back to the search page. We click on the job that we like. And now notice that apply to this job is like a big blue button. All right, so we're gonna click on apply. Now we will say, okay, this is Joe that's applying, today's date. And some of these could be automated since we are doing a quick and dirty thing. And now this time, notice that I also changed the name of the form to submit. And I click on submit, it'll create it. What did we miss? Passing information between pages, we learned that. We kind of skipped dashboards and charts. So let's finish this with creating some dashboards. So we'll go back to our app builder. Let's create a dashboard. So we'll say create page. And there is our dashboard. Now, dashboard by default has, you can set different types of things. You can do a whole bunch of things. We could say primary and 2 secondary charts, primary and 3 secondary charts, however we want. So let's call this dashboard. And we will say create page. So now we need to think about 3 charts to draw. So let's just see for each company how many jobs they have posted, right? So we'll show that with an area chart. Okay, so what we were going to do is we're going to change the source to an SQL query, and we will say select. All right, so let's see what this would look like. Of course, we can go into the attributes and see that this is an area chart. And you can have all these different types of charts that you can pick from. We can say number of jobs um, as the title of the chart. And we can actually, since this is an area chart, we could have multiple series. But let's see what this would look like. Let's see what this chart 2 is. What should we do for chart 2? And this one was picked as a pie chart. All right. So let's see which type of skills are in most demand, right? So for pie chart, we will need the name of the pie and how many in each, right? And so let's try it. I'm not a big graphic person, but we'll do the same thing. We're again, the only thing we need to do is come up with the SQL query for that chart. So we will go down here and we will say the source to be local database. This will be an SQL query. So let's say select, okay, and the attribute is a pie chart. Let's say skill demand as the title. We'll see how it looks like. All right, chart 3. What was chart 3? What did it say? It's a bar chart. Okay, let's do number of jobs in each location here. All right, so let's see, let's go back here and location local database. This will again be another query. We will say select. I don't think I validated. All right, yeah. So we star. I think we need to do double quote here. See, yeah, it does not like single quote in here. Okay, so let's go ahead and validate all the other queries as well. I don't think we did that. So yeah, it's definitely important to make sure. Yeah, see, as you can imagine, it says skill ID. It has a different error, not a single group function. We know we forgot the group by skill name. Let's validate. That one is valid now. Let's look at the first query. Oh, yeah, we should have validated that. Same problem, the number of jobs. Okay, validate. So there is no C name. I think it's called comp name. That's why having the queries validators is important. Otherwise, when we try to run it, we're going to get an error message and we wouldn't know where that error is coming from. That is one problem with a no code because we don't know where exactly the error is from. So we have to look at the error message and try to figure it out. All right, let's see what this dashboard looks like if it even works. So let's run it. Hey, there you go. Look at that. We've got skill demand. It says label 1, label 2, label 3, label 4, label 5. So that's, I think, the descriptions that we are supposed to do.
All right, as I went in to see why it was showing me the labels, I noticed that I put the queries in the wrong place. So we'll fix that. So instead of putting the queries in the source of the chart itself, we need to put the queries in the source for the series because you could have multiple queries for different series. So we did the same problem here. So I'm gonna copy this query. We don't need the chart here. We'll just go into the series and notice that here is where all those label 1, label 2 coming from. So we'll just take that out. Let's paste that in here. And now we can go down here and say, what is the name of the label, which is skill name, and value is the demand. And same thing over here. We take the locations and we're going to use that. And we'll put the query in here, not this label 1, label 2 business. All right. And when we do that, we pick label as location and value as number of jobs. All right, now if I run this, we should see, there you go. Now we see our companies, number of jobs, and skill demand. We see lots of demand for programming, lots of demand for database, lots of demand for analysis, not a lot for these other ones. So this is great. And in location, we see lots of jobs in Dayton and some jobs here in the different places. So that's how easy it is to create a dashboard with a bunch of charts. Now let's finish this up. Let's go to the home page and notice that in the home page, I still have only skills and companies and jobs, right? So let's figure out how to add all of these other cool stuff that we created. So let's click on this page one, and we will see that this is essentially a navigation, and you would see that this is a navigation list, and this is the page navigation list is where it's coming from. I think if you click here, yeah, it takes you right to that page navigation list. Normally the lists are in here. You go into the application under shared components, you'll find all of the lists. This thing has 3 lists, and this is the one that has the home screen list. All right, so let's create what are some of the other things that we would like in our homepage. We would definitely like our job source, right? So we want to put, let's see, what image can we do? Cloud search, database search. All right, let's do a database. And list entry would be job search. And pages in this application is going to be the job search page. And then we will create that list entry. Odd, but let's say we want job search first. So we'll make this 20. And it's going to give me an error message. We'll say companies and jobs as 30. Skills, we would probably say 50. And then let's add another one, create entry as a dashboard. And this one will be a dashboard. I wonder if there's a font for that. Yeah, there you go. That's a dashboard. And entry would be job dashboard. And this page will be our dashboard page. Where's the dashboard page? There's the dashboard page. All right, let's see what happens now. And we're going to change this one to 10. Okay, apply changes. All right, so now if I go to the application and run the application, there you go. I've got job dashboard, skills, companies, and job search. I click on job dashboard, I get our dashboard. I click on job search, I get our job search page, and so forth. So now you see, it took me a little longer because we ran into a couple of little things, but you see that with all we wrote today in building this application is a few SQL queries, and that is it. That's all you need to create an application like this. All right, hope this was useful, and I will see you in another video.